Okay, let's get started. I'm Bruce Webster. This is CS 428. I assume you all signed up because you heard this was an EZA. If you do the work, it's an EZA. People have been known to fail the class, but Chuck worked really hard to fail the class. How many of you had a chance to look at the class website? Okay, a number of you. In case you'll notice that one of the policies, which actually was started by Dr. Knudsen, Chuck. Here's how you know when you're old. It's when you take over a class from a former student of yours who retires. Chuck was one of my students when I taught here at BYU back in the 80s. And he took an early retirement at age 55 and told that I had moved back to Utah a few years before that and told the department, you should get Bruce to teach this stuff. I'm having a great time. This is a fun class. But yes, I'm old. One of the policies is no devices during lectures. Laptops closed, phones down, earpods off, all these good things. On the other hand, I videotape all my lectures, and I post both the videotapes and the slides on the class website. So I'd like you to focus mostly on contributing. Feel free to take pen and paper notes, but mostly ask the questions and make the comments. Why this course? Okay, this is something I grabbed a year or two ago off the net somewhere, showing, the two fundamental types of methodology and how most methodologies actually end up working. Software engineering is a largely chaotic effort. I used to have this argument with this vice president, Fannie Mae. I was leading a group of about 25 consultants, and basically I reported directly to her, and they were all doing projects under her purview. And her argument was that there was no effective methodology because if there was, everyone would be using it. And my argument was, actually there's several effective methodologies. The problem is most people just don't do them right. As time has gone on, I've actually moved a little closer to her point of view. And one of the things we'll talk about in this class is what works and what doesn't in a real-world software engineering setting. Okay, the goals. These are on the page. I'm not going to go through all these. You can read them up on the screen. These are on the website. They're on the home page of the website. My real goal, having spent 45 years working in information technology, I'm not an academic. Please don't call me Dr. Webster. I don't have a PhD. It'd be nice if I did, but I don't. I'm just an adjunct professor. This is the only class I teach. But I have done startups. I have worked in large corporations. I have worked in small corporations. I have consulted on massive failing projects. I have testified before Congress, believe it or not. And the truth is that our industry has been in bad shape from day one. There are billions and billions of dollars in failed IT projects every year. And a lot of what we're going to talk about in this class is why that happens and how you can sort of avoid getting sucked down into the afterdraft. Okay, class website, which I've sent. How many of you have, I'm going to embarrass you, how many of you have not seen the 2 emails that I've sent out? Anyone? Okay. Check your spam filter. I've sent out links to the class website. I've sent out Slack invites. Please join Slack because you're not going to get any more emails from me. So you're not going to get any more updates unless you're on Slack. And if you need to get another copy of the Slack invite, send me an email. So we'll have the website, we have Slack for communications, we'll have project wikis, we'll talk more about that in class. All these assignments and tests will be on Learning Suite. I'm still updating this semester's Learning Suite, so don't trust any of it yet. Don't try to, in fact, I'm not even sure I've published this semester's Learning Suite yet, so you probably can't see anything. On the other hand, the class calendar page on the class website is largely correct. I'm probably going to do a bit more tweaking. I changed up the order of reading last semester, and while going through it week by week in the semester, I thought, oh, there's an awful lot they have to read this week compared to other weeks. So I'm trying to rebalance it a little. But that's not going to happen. I mean, you don't have to worry about that for a few weeks yet. Our scheduled time is here from 2 to 4:30. We never go to 4:30, ever. Occasionally it might go as long as 4. Most of the way through the semester it's going to be somewhere between 3:30 and 4 that will quit. And you can, it's a good chance to use the rest of the time for team meetings, ad hoc team meetings here. Either here in the room, you've got the room to use with, or elsewhere. I do time biology breaks. You don't have to sit here. Even if we do go to 4, you don't sit here for 2 hours. And I always time it before or after the 10-minute between class break. So you're not competing with everyone else here in the Joseph Smith building for use of the restrooms. Attendance counts at 8% of your grade. Lose 2 percentage points for every class you miss. I will take roll every class. You can make it up. You have to contact me, you have to tell me why you missed class. And then, as I said, I videotape all the lectures. So what you need to do is watch the lectures and say, okay, you know, Brother Webster, I watched the lectures for January 13th, and I'll say, yeah, okay, correct, for attendance. No open phones, tablets, laptops during class. Our TA is Taylor. Taylor, you here? Yes, there you go. Taylor, stand up. So our great TA, Taylor. He was my TA last semester. I'm tickled to have him again because I don't have to break in a new TA. And he did a great job. You're going to get to know him because once your projects get started, he's going to be contacting each team every week to talk about your status report for that week and to see how things actually are going on your project. So, thanks. He's got a cubicle, it says cubicle 18 and what, 1063?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. It's on the website. I don't have an office. If you need to talk to me one-on-one, ping me on Slack and I can arrange to meet you here on campus. Grading. What are we going to be graded on? 8% on attendance, 24% on your readings, 10% on podcasts. We have a whole set of video podcasts that Chuck Knutson, my former student and former teacher here, created on different subjects. You get to pick whichever ones, there's a couple dozen of them. You get to pick which ones you want to watch and check them off. Basically, you'll start on a weekly schedule, not this week, but next week. Watch it, mark it off on on Learning Suite. And by the way, let me recommend that when you mark it off in Learning Suite, describe which podcast you've watched. I've had students who have gotten towards the end of the semester and they can't remember which podcast they watched and they don't want to sit and watch the same one over again. Midterm, there's one test in the class, there's no final. There's a midterm and it's a late midterm. You get it about a week or two after everyone else's midterms. It's open book, open note, open internet, but your own work, and basically what it is a set of scenarios, and you say, it's like, here's the scenario, identify 3 risks with the scenario with a citation from your readings for each risk. Identify 2 remediations that you do with a citation for each. We'll go over this in much more detail. But that's the gist of it, is I want to see what your reaction is to honest real-world situations. Now you have to understand in this, and I'll talk more about my background in a few minutes, but I've spent most of the last 25 years professionally studying why projects succeed and fail. I have reviewed, as an expert witness, $1.5 billion failing projects. I personally reviewed on the ground as a consultant $500 million failing projects. And what you're going to learn in this class is that the root causes of project failure are all pretty much the same and they're almost never technical. They're almost always sociological and political. And you need to know that. Because this is what you're going to be working in. You're going to do a project. You're going to organize into teams. Basically, and we'll start working on this. 2 weeks from now is Martin Luther King Day on a Monday. And since we only meet on Mondays, that means no class for the entire week. So I want to get the project started before we hit that. So what you'll do, and we'll talk more about this in a few minutes, is you're going to go onto the class wiki and start proposing projects and start voting for projects. And next week we will have you all vote as to which projects you want to work on. It takes multiple rounds to sort of narrow it down to a set of projects. And working on that project will be 33% of your grade. You can get extra credit up to 8% for approved book readings. There's a list of pre-approved books on the class website. Yes?
Once you've decided your project and you're working with your group, is it possible to change, or are you?
It's possible to change. Yeah, if you have good reason or whatever, you can come to me and you can sort of negotiate a switch. That happens every semester. We have 1 or 2 people who decide they want to go over somewhere else. They don't like their teammates or they don't like the project or whatever. You can get extra credit. Again, if you do the work, you're going to get an A in the class. Now, I don't know that the department's terribly happy about that. I've had some feedback early on, some sort of question marks from the department chair looking at the grade distribution in the class. But my goal is to get you to learn this stuff. Because the stuff I'm telling you is real. This is pretty much what I've lived with for 45 years. I love software engineering, I love software architecture, I love, information technology, but boy, I'll tell you, it's a very dysfunctional industry. And you need to know that, particularly how many of you are in the process of interviewing for jobs? Yeah, we'll talk about things you want to look for, good and bad. Any questions on the grading? Yes?
So this is just kind of a question on the project. Looking at it, is the idea more to work, do we have to complete a project by the end of the grade to get the full 33%, or is it more learning from the experience of working on it?
Learning from the experience. Basically, with your projects, you'll do 2 demos. You'll do one, your first demo about a month before the end of the semester, and your second one the last day of class. And all that matters is that your team do a demo. I don't go in and grade your project. I don't grade it for completeness. I don't go in and look at your source code. I care less about your source codes. But as a team, you will be producing team deliverables. As a team, you'll be producing, here's our org chart, here's our specifications, here's our architecture and design doc, here's our test plan, and you'll be submitting a weekly status report that shows here's what we accomplished, here's what we're going to accomplish, here's the risks we see, here are the billable hours, we'll talk all about billable hours later, that each person put in on the project and so on. Again, the goal is to give you the sense of a real world project and have some fun. How many of you are seniors? Yeah, how many of you graduate either in April or August? Yeah. This is not a class to be painful through your last semester or your last 2 semesters here. This is something to get you ready to take that job and go out in the world. Okay, books you're responsible for reading. Mythical Man Month, Fred Brooks. Anniversary edition. His first edition was published in 1975. My first edition copy is signed by Fred Brooks. I'm very proud of that. Didn't get to meet him personally. I sent it to a mutual friend who gave it to him. He signed it, said something nice, and got it sent back. Probably the single most important book ever written on software engineering. Over the years, I have done a lot of writing and posting and lecturing on software engineering. And there have been any number of times when I thought I had come up with some new insight. I'll go back and read the book, and sure enough, there's some sentence there where he nails that same insight. And he wrote most of this 45 years ago. Second book, probably the second most important book on software development, Peopleware by Mark Lister. And this is pretty much all about organizations and how dysfunctional organizations are and how they hire and produce an environment for you to work in, software engineering. Third book is actually a very new book, Accelerate. This came out, I think, in 2018. And I've switched from another book I was using to this one because this basically, two reasons. One, this is very research-based. This is not someone saying, here's what we think is nice. The authors surveyed a couple thousand people on their practices and their assessment on how they were doing and basically said, here's what works and here's what doesn't. And this focuses very much on current cutting-edge issues in software development. So those are the three books you're going to read. You've got online readings. They're each worth 5% of your grade. You will have basically until the midterm to check off as having read them. Because you're going to read selected chapters through the weeks, and you're just going to have to keep track of that yourself, and basically by the end say, yeah, I read this. Online readings, one of which I'm going to talk about today, 5 Orders of Ignorance by Philip Armour. Oh, yes?
Just something on the books. BYU offers students an online O'Reilly account. O'Reilly has all 3 of those books.
There you go.
For online free.
My recommendation, buy hard copies and keep them. You will use them throughout your career. If nothing else, to beat your fellow workers and managers over the head with. Actually, you'll hear me talk a lot about one of my startups, Pages Software. I was Chief Software Architect and Chief Technical Officer. And we were a full year late in shipping our product. And about halfway through that time, Dave Creek, who was Director of Quality, came walking by my office, and I was reading Mythical Man Month, and he looked at me and said, isn't it a little late for that? And he was right. That experience is pretty, you'll hear me talk a lot about Pages. That experience is pretty much what focused me professionally on project success and failure. Philip Armour, 5 Orders of Ignorance. There's a link on the website to get to their PDF you can download. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And I have a number of articles and blog posts that I've written over the years, most dating back, frankly, to the late 2000s, 2008, 2009, that capture the things I want to teach anyway. These are the readings that you're going to be wanting to use on the midterm. The class calendar has the schedule for reading, and there's a page that actually has links to all the online readings. Don't get ahead, but you can read, or don't get behind, but you can read ahead as much as you want. Any other questions on readings? Yes?
So just to clarify, so we're going to read the first books, the first 2 of them, like all the way through, and then just select chapters from Accelerate?
Actually, it's selected chapters from Fred Brooks as well.
Okay.
So, but I'd recommend reading all of them. reading all of them with you. I talked briefly about the podcast, set of over 20 podcasts. You're going to watch one each week, starting not this week, but next week. Each one is due, these are due midnight by Saturday. You check them off on Learning Suite. I should see if I can dig this up. Someone last semester posted on Slack a very handy, on our previous semester Slack space, very handy list that gave the length of all the podcasts. Some of the podcasts are longer than others. Some are much longer than others. Before you start watching a podcast, actually check and see how long it is. You know, some of them are like 30 minutes. I think there's one that's like 2.5 hours. So, you know, choose wisely. Any questions on a podcast? Yes?
I was just wondering what your late policy was on like readings and podcasts. I mean, not that I'm planning on getting behind. Just like if I have a week where I'm swamped with homework.
I tend to be something of a softie, because what I care is not so much that it is done on time, that it's done. On the other hand, I can be hard-nosed because I don't want you to, get like 3/4 of the way through the semester without having watched any podcasts. So, if you're coming to me occasionally and saying, I missed doing this podcast, can I make it up? I'm going to be fine. If you come to me and say, I haven't watched any podcasts and I watched 8 of them now, I'm probably going to be like, yeah, which will get half credit or something like that. Any more? Okay, midterm, I told you. Only test, no final, open book, open note, open device. Monday, November 25th. There's one slide I didn't change. It's actually sometime in March, mid-March. Typically takes 2 to 3 hours. It's a 3-hour time delay. You must get at least a 60%. I'm trying to think if I've had anyone out and out flunk the midterm. I probably have had 1 or 2 people who just sort of started and walked away. But other than that, again, you have to really work hard to flunk. And this is a sample question. That was actually on the midterm for, I think, my first semester. So this is typically what you're going to have in midterm. You have like 5 questions like this. Each one will be worth 25 points. The whole midterm will be worth 125 points, which will be 25% of your grade. Any questions? Trust me, we'll do midterm review starting a couple of weeks before the midterm. But this is just so you know what kind of test you're looking at and why it's important to do reading. Okay, group projects will all be run through and submitted to GitHub. And I've already sent out a notice. A lot of you responded. I don't think it's everyone yet. I need you to, if you don't have a GitHub ID, to go sign up and get a GitHub ID, and then send that to me via email or Slack. And I will add you as a collaborator, and it will send you an invite. You have to respond to the invite. Basically, what you'll see is it'll take you to this page, and this is where you're going to propose projects. I want all of you this week to either propose a project, or if you see a project there that you like, sort of add your name to it. And next week we're going to go through projects and decide which ones have enough support to go forward.
Can we suggest a project and express support for other?
Oh yes, yes. And when you do your initial voting, you're going to be voting for 3 projects because you figure a lot of them just aren't going to make it. So what you'll actually do here to create a project is you'll create a new page. You'll say, all right, I need my reading glasses, sorry. My cool project, and this is my description of my cool project, and my name, and save the page. Then I'm going to go back. And now I have to edit this page. Please don't delete stuff when you edit. And the little vertical bar is what you do to help add it to the table. So this will be project 2, vertical bar, double bracket, my cool project. Did I capitalize it in the original? Is it case sensitive? Did anyone know offhand?
I think it is.
There, and then it's now 1 because I just signed up for it. And then you save the page. And there it is. And if I want to see the project, I just click on the link there and it takes me to my cool project. So that's how you do it. And then when you vote for projects, say I'm someone else and I look at those two and I say, those are both cool, I want to vote for both of those. I edit this page and do the difficult task of saying, adding 1 to the number. That goes from 0 to 1, that goes from 1 to 2, and save the page. And there we go. So that's how you're going to be submitting your ideas and voting for projects if you're interested in. Yeah.
Are we going to talk about expectations for what types of projects we propose or the scope?
Yes, we are. So let me get back to the slides here. There are, and I have here on the slides, like I said, the slides will be posted by tonight. The video should be posted possibly tonight, certainly by tomorrow. And you can click through here. You can go back and look at the wikis for prior semesters and for project inspiration, or to simply steal ideas outright. There's no reason why your project has to be novel. You can look and say, oh, hey, that was clever. I want to do that. And do it. Don't steal their source code. Okay, status report starting February 1st. Each team will be submitting a weekly status report. Where's my pointer here? So this will be your description of your project. Here's the project name, the date of your report. Please update that every week. I get status reports, like 2 or 3 in a row that all have the same date there. The name of the person on your team who's the project manager. Here's a summary of the project. Here are key tasks you're working on. These are only samples. These you need to actually change to reflect your actual progress and status. Please do that. And each week you'll say, here are the tasks we've completed, here are tasks that were delayed that we intended to complete, and here's what we're doing in the following week. What we plan for the following week. Here are risks or issues that we currently perceive, and these should go away as they're resolved. And then here are each of the team members, their role or task, and we'll talk about organization and the number of hours they worked on the project. Expectation is that once there's not going to be a lot to do the first week or 2 of the project, but after that I expect 5 to 7 hours on your project. If it's each week, if it's less than that, then Taylor will be asking and saying, so what's happening here? And he's very good at sniffing out where there's legitimate reasons and where people just have decided to punt their project down the road. Oh, there we go. Weekly project status interviews. Taylor will do this, and the goal is, and there was a cartoon I saw a few years ago, a meme actually. Someone said, when I die and I'm married, I want my pallbearers to be the members of my team project from high school because I want them to let me down one more time. My experience is that most of the teams actually function well. But usually each semester there's 1 or 2 teams where, and Taylor can talk about this more than me because he's really where the rubber meets the road, where people just aren't getting stuff done. And occasionally there's actual intervention there and impact on grades. So I reserve that right, but as long as you're working towards your demo and everyone's happy with the time everyone else is putting in, I'm fine. Your project deliverables, I think these dates are all right. You'll set up your wiki by a week from this Saturday. You'll do an org chart and role description for your team. You'll do a requirements document, PERT and Gantt charts, which are scheduling charts, architecture and design document, test plan specification. Individually, you'll each need to do a code review of one of your teammates' source codes. Then on March 16th, you'll have an in-class demo of your work in progress. So when you're scoping out your project, keep in mind you're going to be demonstrating something in a little over 2 months. So keep the scope appropriate to that. And I'll talk a bit about do's and don'ts on projects. And then the last week of class, which is 4 weeks later, you'll do a brief 1-minute business pitch for your project and your final demo. And of course, everyone will get to see what great improvements you've made in 4 weeks. Hopefully, you've all made great improvements. And then one last individual assignment by the last day of classes, and this is just on Learning Suite. You just go on, it's deliverable number 10 or whatever, and it's simply what worked in the class for you, what didn't work, what changes would you suggest, what's the most important thing you think you thought you learned here. And that's I read these, and I make tweaks each semester to the class based on the feedback I get. Now sometimes the tweaks keep going like this. You know, if someone says, oh, I really think we should do that, and I do that. Someone says, I don't think we should do that. And sometimes I say, okay, I'm going back, and otherwise it's kind of like that tough. Okay, speaking of project and project scope, common pitfalls. Using a new, unfamiliar technology or language for your project. It's like, you know, I've always wanted to learn Go. Let's use Go for this. Okay? That's a bad choice for a short-term project. It's actually a bad term for a professional project unless it's some sort of prototype or exploratory project. And I will tell horror stories about projects I have seen and reviewed where brand new, you know, a programming language or some new technology was adopted for a brand new mission-critical short-term project, and of course it failed utterly. And by the way, the feedback I get usually at the end of the semester, because one of the things I always ask is, you know, well, what lessons did you learn from this project? It's like, no, we thought that Unity on Mac was going to work just like Unity on PC, and no, it didn't work the same. Things like that. Not agreeing early on your technology base. This is a real challenge. Because you're not all working for the same company. You're self-organizing teams, and it's like, okay, what language are we going to use? What's our target? Is it, you know, Android? Is it iOS? Is it Windows? Is it Linux? And you have to get to an early agreement as a team as to what you're going to do. Being overly ambitious in your scope, something you will hear me say ad nauseum in this class, is that there is only one way to make up schedule slip. That's throwing out features. That's the only way. Can't do it by adding people. Can't do it by working overtime. Can't do it by magic adoption of new technologies and methodologies. Throw out features. So, as my good friend Bruce Henderson likes to say, start out stupid and work up from there. Individual team members failing to contribute, not looking for ways to distribute the workload. Now this is going to be one of the more subtle but important challenges you're going to have. Communicating, knowing who's doing what, and making sure if there's 5 of you, that 4 of you don't all think that someone else on the team is doing Project X and no one is really doing it. Not keeping all team members in the loop as to next steps or key decisions, and getting a slow start. Any questions? Yes?
When you said 5 to 7 hours per week, you mean for the whole project, or for like each person?
For like each person. Is this coding you're doing? You're actually developing something. You don't code an hour a week on a project. Or you may, but you're not going to get much done. Yes?
You may have said this, I missed it, but how many people are you supposed to these projects?
Typically 4 to 7. I've been open to 3-team projects. And if you make a good argument for a three-person project, 3-team project, 3-person teams, to make an argument for a 3-person project, I've allowed that before. With 7, the problem you get is that people really don't have anything to do. So you need to keep it small enough so that everyone's got something to do. And by the way, you're going to wear different hats through the project, which is, having done startups, is the reality. Extra credit. It's been a while since I've had anyone read an extra credit book. Class must be too easy. Okay, getting to know each other. My background, I came to BYU in 1971. as a microbiology major. Actually, my intent was to go into marine biology. After a year, I decided I wasn't that interested in being a biology major, left on my mission. While I was on my mission, I had someone send me the old BYU course catalog, which was like a 2-inch thick physical book. And literally went through every single department and major. P-Day, a lot to do. The two that interested me the most were computer science and linguistics. Came back and changed my major to computer science. Got a job immediately when I came back for a translation, computer-assisted language translation project here at BYU, which is what I worked on for most of my undergraduate, for actual money. Graduated with a BS in computer science in 1978. Worked at General Dynamics, mostly space and aerospace. Worked on the space shuttle and flight simulators at Johnson Space Center. Worked next door at the Lunar and Planetary Institute. Worked for Monitor Labs, which made environmental monitoring equipment, basically emissions testing equipment that would sit on smokestacks. And then one of my friends from high school who had successfully developed a spell checker, back when spell checkers were not integrated with every word processor, they were actually separate programs. Sort of had an immediate overnight success with the second version of the spell checker. And he always wanted to do computer games. So he approached me and said, hey, I do computer games? I said, sure. So I quit Monitor Labs and went to work for Oasis Systems FTL Games. And we designed and shipped a game for the Apple II called Sundog Frozen Legacy. There is a lengthy, I still get email, fan email from it. There's a lengthy Wikipedia entry for Sundog. But look it up and learn all about it. Yes?
Just gonna say, I actually did look it up. It's a pretty fun little game for how old it is.
The Apple II version shipped in 1984. They ported the Atari ST after I left Oasis FTL. I actually burned out, and we'll talk about that, burned out on programming while doing that. Fortunately, I was able to write for Byte Magazine, which was sort of the premier PC magazine at the time. And moved up here, and this was only 7 years after I graduated. And happened to be in the same ward as one of my former professors, Dr. Robert Orton. Anyone have a class from Dr.